Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com, is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, we got our brakes in tip-top shape. It's looking good. Now we got to turn our attention to the suspension. And Dave, it's all about the geometry of the vehicle.
Geometry is no joke. If you get it wrong, you see a lot of home jobs out there where people just throw something on the vehicle, ends up getting wonky. You can break a lot of parts that way in the suspension, maybe the drive shaft, and it's unsafe.
Absolutely, and not to mention alignment and all the tire angles. And the first step was just taking the wheels off. And let me give you a tip. You guys at home, if you have a chance, spray it down with some penetrating oil. Every single suspension bolt you can, man. That gives you a mechanical advantage second to none. Dave, and you needed that.
Absolutely, but once we got it, we had to still put a little muscle into it, even though we sprayed it. There's only 2 bolts on the shocks there, the upper and lower bolts on the shock, and that is off.
That's off. Once that came off, it was off to the rear leaf spring. Now on the leaf spring itself, the rear leaf spring has a rear bolt and a front bolt. So once we got those 2 off, well, it was ready for the leaf spring to come out of there.
Well, yes, but we still had the U-bolts to get off here. So, and this is the same technology. This blows me away. You know, in ancient Rome, they're using leaf springs made of leather on their wagons, and leaf springs haven't changed. Just the U-bolt, 4 bolts holding those U-bolts on there, and then we can take off the leaf spring.
And the comparison is amazing. Look at the difference between the two. That actually 4-inch lift is built into that spring, which is great because that's actually going to keep the geometry right. It's going to keep the vehicle right. And now you can go ahead and put them back in there.
Yeah, and to put the new ones on, they didn't come with the bushings installed. Sometimes you might have to use a hammer to knock it in there. On ours, it was easy enough just to push in there. And once we put those on, just the front and rear bolts, and we were good to go.
Yeah, and then, you know, we had it supported on jack stands. Remember, you want to support that differential because once you remove the leaf spring, you got nothing holding it up. So those jack stands were still in place. We went ahead and lifted it up, got the pin in place, made sure that it was right, and then we just kind of put the new U-bolts on, put the shock absorbers, and Dave, it was off to the front.
And the front is the same, John, when you're taking off everything and when you're putting it back on, same process. But the big difference there, John, is the steering arm, and that's where you talk about geometry once again.
Yeah, it makes all the difference in the world. You don't want that thing tight. You don't want stress on that. You don't want an unsafe steering system. And also, speaking of steering, we put on those front stabilizers, Dave. That's going to make a huge difference when it comes to steering a 1984 truck with a gearbox.
Well, and you think about driving, you know, you had, if you're off-roading, you have bump steer. You hit a bump and it kicks the steering wheel back in your hands. The steering dampener, these are horizontally opposed shocks, and they keep the steering from flopping back and forth when you hit something like that. And you're going to love it. It's also going to give you a safer ride too.
Man, looking at these brakes and looking at the suspension, I can't bear to put those old rusty wheels and tires back on there. The tires, those are second to none. I got a tire guy here who's going to talk all about them. Now this is Matt from Jim Whaley Tires. Now Matt, you're the general manager. Tell me a little bit about Jim Whaley.
Well, Jim Whaley started back in 1986 in Dothan, Alabama. He's since branched out from there. We've got 8 other locations plus our warehouse. We do pretty much everything from tires to suspension work all the way up to engine work.
Now I know at Chipola College we cherish our educational business partnerships and industry partnerships, and you guys do great things for our techs and our school, but you really hooked up our K10 here. So talk about these BF Goodrifts. Why did you guys choose these?
Oh man, these tires are top of the line as far as all terrains go. They're a 10-ply tire, especially on this old truck here. Beautiful tire to match with it. These tires go anywhere you want to, especially off-road.
Boy, and they're going to do just that. These tires are going to be phenomenal, and you guys don't want to miss it. We're going to put them on the vehicle during the commercial, lower the truck, and show you the stance. We'll be back with more Tech Garage brought to you by RockAuto.com.